Spiritually, all of us are still orphans, and no matter what kind of psychological games we play or tricks we use, until we discover our real roots in God, we will keep longing for something. There is plenty of bad news in today's world. When one turns on the television, he can see numerous acts of violence, as well as acts of passion. Yet he sees little godly love exchanged. This phenomena is indicative of the world in which we live. It stands to reason there is much confusion. Young people especially do not know where to turn. Where and how is God taught to young people? What will strengthen the moral fiber of our world, our nations, our communities, our families? How do we instill proper values in a way that will benefit a person's growth? Without exception, every man, woman, and child still longs to be loved unconditionally. But it is extremely difficult to find pure love in this impure world. People are fickle, that has been proved far too often. So people turn elsewhere to find someone who will be faithful to them. Some turn to drugs or alcohol, food or gambling, any of which may bring relief for a while, but which are effectively poor substitutes, for they never totally satisfy the soul. A person, even in his desolation, is forced to keep looking. But many people come across a stumbling block. Based on their search, they discover that the one being who is faithful and who bestows divine love with no strings attached is none other than God. God is most definitely alive, but it is up to each individual to recognize and coax the God-given qualities from within each human soul, making this entire world a place in which God would be able to dwell his long-desired kingdom of heaven. Through the master plan of God, this universe and all its systems are interlinked and interdependent. There are numerous micro and macro existences which work according to scientific principles. God's intelligence and wisdom in creating all these interrelated systems is beyond our comprehension and reach. Scientists, artists, musicians, painters, and sculptors have tapped the reservoir of God, received inspiration, and then created. The results span from cures to masterpieces. People need to return to God and need to see that building a relationship with Him is absolutely essential. Most people do not realize much about the heart of God. The Bible reveals points which clarify many of the misunderstandings about this little regarded aspect of the Creator. For example, it uncovers that God was broken-hearted because of the fall and, because man is so misdirected and unaware of what purpose God has for his life, he has remained sorrowful. It reveals that God already knows us intimately, but longs to live with us, that He is more than willing to do that, but it is man's responsibility to invite Him to do so. The Bible elucidates that He is aware of the heartache we feel because of the problems we experience. That He shares our feeling of disappointment and frustration, but wishes He could partake in our joy also, and that we could share in His. Man needs to recognize himself as a sinner, but just as important for him is to identify his potential. Such an experience is life-transforming, for the moment we see our potential in relationship to God, we will no longer feel the need to erect defense mechanisms. We will be filled with positivism, as He can then infuse us with His hopes and His goals. That is when God and man, heavenly parent and child, will share intimacy and love.